Welcome back to this video in the series of the 7 potentially deadly church sicknesses. Isn't that a mouthful? I wonder if I can get this out every video without some type of edit. The 7 potentially deadly church sicknesses. Now, just as a reminder from the previous video, just a reminder that we went over all 7 of them, and we're now going to break them down one by one. But also as a reminder, the purpose of this is not to be negative, naysayer, or fatalistic in my attitude. The purpose of this is to help your church discover, are there some potential sicknesses that might ultimately lead to decline, that might ultimately lead to death? Here's a review of the 7 we'll cover. I'm not going to go each of these individually because we will dive deep into them as we will for the first one today is attitudinal angst. But let me just give you an overview of the 7 sicknesses. Attitudinal angst, we'll be talking about that in this video. Slippage syndrome, talk about that more in the next video. Detail distraction, probably one of my favorite ones of this series. Institutional idolatry, as I indicated earlier, probably one of the more painful ones to address, if not all of these. Activity acclamation, busy, 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 but not doing necessarily kingdom or gospel work. Purposeless prayer, I think that speaks for itself, and we'll delve into that just a little bit more. And detrimental defensiveness. Okay, those are the 7. My purpose in this particular video is to go over attitudinal angst. Attitudinal, what we think, how we believe, and angst, a sense of concern or anxiety. Let's look at it defined. Attitudinal angst. It is defined this way: a church illness where church members are more focused on getting their own desires and preferences met rather than being a serving member of the body of Christ. Now, just as a note here, I did 2 little books that are connected to this. This is not some type of shameless advertisement, but if you have not looked at these might be helpful. The first one is called I Am a Church Member. And that was exactly what it says. What does it mean to be about a functioning part of the body of Christ? A healthy functioning part. The other one is I Will. Now that we have the right mindset, what are the actions that we want to take? So the closest book that is connected to this is I Am a Church Member, but the book I Will can also prove helpful as well. Okay, attitudinal angst is also sometimes called country club membership, country club church membership. Now, what do I mean by that? I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again to those of you who are watching this particular video. When I was a young boy, I was brought up in South Alabama, and we had never seen a country club in our lives. We had a little bitty country club that finally came to town. It had a place where you could eat. It obviously had a bar in it, but not that was a part of my routine again and again. But it also had a swimming pool, a tennis court, and had a 9-hole golf course. And I just got so excited when my parents paid the nominal fee to become a part of the country club. Because you could go to the country club and you could say, I want a cheeseburger. And they'd give you a cheeseburger. And I'd say, I want just ketchup on the cheeseburger. And they'd just do it just right. I didn't have to worry about McDonald's and their onions and all this junk that they put on their burger, because I would go to the country club and I could say, can you bring that out with a vanilla shake to the pool? We certainly can. It was one of the coolest things in the world. You know what I learned? If you pay your way, you can get all of your preferences and needs met. Now, attitudinal angst is called country club membership because sometimes the attitude is, I pay my way in this church. And some people will even withhold paying if they don't get their way in the church. And because I pay my way, I should get my needs met. Well, that should be the furthest thing from the truth. 1 Corinthians 12 is so very clear that we are part of the body of Christ and members of the body of Christ so that we could all function in a healthy way serving one another, not trying to serve ourselves. Country club church membership means we're in it for us, that we are not there for others. And when church members begin to think that way, they then, if they don't get their way, which they won't, they begin to fight, have cliques, sometimes create a bullying atmosphere, and then even on occasion have splits. It is country club membership instead of 1 Corinthians 12 body of Christ membership. And for sure, it is one of the most common causes of conflict, splits, and the presence of bullies in the church. Now, why is that? Well, for those of you who have or had small children, have you ever seen them fuss? And usually one of them wants exactly what the other one has until that one doesn't have what it had to begin with. And so if one of the kids said, I want that, Mommy, I want that, Daddy, and they'll start pitching a fit, why does he or she get it and I don't? You ever seen those scenarios where kids start fighting over things they want? Well, we have some kids in our churches. Now, they're adult in age, but they act like kids. If they don't get their way, they're going to murmur, gossip. They're going to complain. They're going to criticize the pastor or others. They're just going to begin to say, this church isn't what it used to be. I remember the good old days of this church. Many times it'll cause overt conflicts. Many times bullies will rise up and they will then begin to take their way and get their way aggressively and hurt others in the process. And it's even possible that churches will split. Unfortunately, I've seen churches split over some of the silliest things. And basically it boils down to this: you didn't get your way. And here's what we see about these churches. They're highly change resistant. It only makes sense, doesn't it? If you want something a certain way and someone begins to take it away from you, well, then you want to fuss because you don't get it your way. Let me give you an example. Someone in a church had a massive fit because their parking place was taken. They got there a little bit late, and obviously a guest did not know that it was their parking spot. Not marked, not anything that would indicate. And they even wanted to pull behind the car and block it because they were in their parking spot. You think I'm embellishing the story? No, I'm not at all. This is a true story, repeated out in different ways in different churches again and again, because church members see church as something that is for them and for their needs and preferences instead of for serving the body of Christ. And so if they're getting their way in something and you take it away, or you indicate or threaten or just suggest that you may be leading change, they will scream, no, we want our church the way it's always been. The sad thing about it is it will not always be that way. Churches are going to change one way or the other. You might as well be ahead of the change and proactive, or you might as well be behind the change and watching your church die. Another symptom of these type of churches is short-term pastorates. Can you understand that? A pastor watching people whining and not getting their way, and conflicts and bullying and schisms within the church. Can you understand that those pastors may say life is just too short? Now understand, and you say, well, if God's called that pastor to the church, then that pastor should stay. I get that. But many pastors may think that God is speaking through the circumstances that are going on in the church, and they think, okay, we just need to leave. Here's the reality. Most pastors leave somewhere between years 2 and 4 of their tenure. Why is that? Because those are the years that the honeymoon is definitely over, and people are beginning to say, Pastor, you need to do things my way. You need to focus on your areas. You need to be focused on what's going on with you. Okay, what else do we know about this? That there is little unity in these churches. Now, that's kind of a duh moment. It makes absolute sense. A unified church is a powerful instrument for God's glory. A unified church and His power cannot be stopped. But a church that has attitudinal angst, that is thinking about what can happen for me and myself and those churches have no power, because all they're concerned about is their power, their way, what is happening for them. So these churches have little unity because there is nothing to unify around, because everybody is doing his or her own thing, and they are not interested in working for the greater good of the body of Christ. And here's the reality. These churches are rarely a Great Commission or a Great Commandment church. A Great Commission church is other-centered. Go and make disciples of all nations. You will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria. Do you get that? It's about going for others. It's about reaching others. It's about discipling others. It's about the other mindset, not the mindset of me. It is not attitudinal angst. It is an outward focus. Likewise, they're not great commandment churches. They're not churches that are loving others as God has loved them. They're not churches that are focusing upon the others. And so they're neither Great Commission or Great Commandment churches. As I've gone through this, do you see some potential signs that your church may have the sickness of attitudinal angst? Do you see some indications that this may be happening? It is my hope that as you see this, that you'll begin to understand that there are some potential solutions, Great Commission and Great Commandment being the sum and substance of all of them, and that your church does not have to go in this direction. I hope recognizing this illness is something that can help your church move in another direction. My name is Tom Rayner. It has been great to have you here at the Rayner Report. I want to thank our sponsor, Costco, Tim Songster, the CEO. You can go there, and if you need anything about a church facility, a new one, or a rebuild, or a remodel, or anything related to church facilities, they are among the best. I'm thankful to God for the ministry of Costco, and you can go and look at anything that you need about church facilities at churchdesign.com. That's churchdesign.com. Once again, thank you for being here at the Rayner Report. Come back next week, because we're going to continue to go through this series of the 7 potentially deadly church sicknesses.